Sunday Sound Off with Frank Boal.
Hey, welcome back to Sunday Sound Off, our first hot topic of the night. There's a lot in it. Probably these guys will probably each take a little bit of it. Why are DH, second base, right field, starting rotation, all big question marks right now? TJ, pick one and go.
All right, second base. I think that second base was a problem, but as we saw this weekend, Ned Yost kind of rectified that by saying Whit Merrifield's going to be the everyday starter for the most part at second base. We know he can play in other positions, and this has been kind of maybe a Twitter topic, not necessarily a radio or print topic just yet, but I think that Whit Merrifield can be what Ben Zobrist was for the Royals last year. That's not to say that he is Ben Zobrist. We need to make that clear. But can he produce 56 RBIs? Can he be somebody who can produce some offense for you and also play pretty solid at second base? Yes, I think absolutely he can. And I think that while it was a problem with Omar Infante, it no longer is. I really like Whit Merrifield a lot. I think he's a gamer. And I think that he'll do some impressive things for the Royals, not just offensively, but defensively as well.
Okay, Blair, we've solved that problem. Now, anything else?
Yeah, Merrifield started the last 3 games of the Indian series. It looks like he's the guy going forward. And I thought we covered the starting pitching pretty good in the last segment. I'll take a stab at DH, and it is a problem, and it's a problem. Kendrys Morales hit the home run to walk off that 13-inning Braves game back on 3 weeks ago on Sunday, and we thought that was finally he was coming out of this this slump that he was in, and it turns out it just hasn't happened for him, and I don't know what the answer is. When I look at the Royals and what they've got and what their options are, I think of Gene Hackman in Hoosier saying, my team is on the court. The Royals team is on the field. I don't know what the options are for the Royals. I think they're going to have to live with some of this for a little bit longer. Yeah, because there's actually no one on the roster right now to take up that position. It's going to have to be guys rotating in and out. They take them off the field, make them DHs. Then they have to stick somebody else out in the field to replace them. So it's like a merry-go-round at that position. Soren?
And I think part of the problem is look, we heard the name Ben Zobrist. I'm going to throw in James Shields and Johnny Cueto as well. Everybody knew James Shields was coming for 2 years. Everybody knew Cueto was a rent-a pitcher. And Ben Zobrist, there was maybe some hope that he could stay around. But in reality, he was a rent-a player as well for the playoffs. And so nobody's really upset that they moved on. And nobody really counts those as losses when they evaluate this team. But the Royals paid a very steep price for each one of those players with talented prospects. Not that, and it was a lot of pitching. Obviously, you're not going to throw a pitcher in there at second base or right field, but those pitchers could have gone for a young right fielder or a young second baseman. The Royals made the moves they needed to make to get up over the hump with James Shields and then to get over the hump to ultimately win a world championship with Cueto and Zobrist. And I think that's one of the things they're kind of cornered now. Their system isn't as deep as it used to be, so they can't just go pluck a guy. And by the way, James Shields is now a Chicago White Sox. They've strengthened their team, and I think the race is on to see if the Royals do have anything deeper down in their system, younger players, not ones that are ready to come up and help a big league club right now, that they can move to perhaps help this team out. But I think we need to keep in mind that they have spent a lot, not just money, but in prospects to make this team what it is, and they're feeling a little bit of that pain right now.
Yeah, right. I think there's some of those prospects right now that they really don't want to trade. They don't want to give up these young guys right now. Here's our second hot topic of the evening. Should the Big 12 kick Baylor out of the conference? Now, it sounds easy for a knee-jerk reaction. I know, Blair, you spent the last week down in Dallas at the Big 12 meetings. What are your thoughts about Baylor, where they are, and do they belong in this conference?
Well, they're not going to get booted from the conference. That doesn't happen. There have been programs that have gotten in this, not exactly this kind of trouble, but high-profile problems they're kind of non-football related, and they didn't lose their conference affiliation because of it. Look, what's going to happen to Baylor, I think, is the punishment's going to sort of take care of itself over the next several years. I think Baylor's not going to be what it has been for the 5 years when they were 50 and 15 under Art Briles. With he is gone. Recruits are decommitting left and right. People who have signed the incoming freshman class want to get out of their letters of intent. They have an interim head coach that doesn't share the same offensive philosophy as the players that are in the program. I wrote about this earlier in the week that Colorado went through something similar in the mid-2000s and lost the school president, the football coach, the athletic director. In the 19 years before that problem, Colorado had 16 winning seasons. Since then, they've had 12 straight losing seasons. Wow. I don't know if Baylor's going to fall into the abyss on this, but I think we're not going to see a Baylor program knocking on the door of a national championship anytime soon.
Soren?
I think Blair's right. I mean, I think they're going to feel the pain of what they've done just on the field. I mean, you lose the kind of talent they're going to lose here over the next year or so in recruiting, and it's going to be a big gap. You won't see it immediately this year. I mean, we'll see. Maybe they can put together a 10-win season, but next year will be an 8-win season. Then there'll be a 6, and everyone will be blaming, pointing in different directions. But in reality, it's going to be this big hole in their recruiting. And look, it's not a hole that they're going to patch up. That just hire a full-time coach next year and we're going to get it fixed. This is going to continue for a while. They're tarnished and they're going to feel it. But no, Baylor should not be kicked out of the Big 12 because they've got a chance to put things back together. And if you kick a school out, look, then you're what? Yeah. Next time somebody goes on probation, well, who are you going to get? They need more schools, not less schools. And if you kick a school out, what are you going to do the next time somebody gets in trouble? You're going to kick Oklahoma out? Yeah. I mean, I think that's just a precedent you can't set. But Baylor's going to feel the pain for quite some time. I mean, their punishment has been handed down by themselves, and it's going to be harsh over the next 5, and as Blair said, maybe 10, 20 years.
TJ?
Well, I think Blair's right, and I think Soren's right. But I also think that there is a cultural problem at Baylor. We've talked about this, that the community around Baylor insulates it from blame and insulates it from its problems, allows it to police itself as an institution. They protect the institution over the victims, and I don't know how a lack of football success is going to change that. We saw the basketball program go through something similar in terms of a social crisis, obviously a different situation. But I listened to somebody who used to live in Waco, Texas, was a Baylor alum, and they said they were shocked that this happened again at Baylor. This is not the first time they've tried to cover things up that are unsavory. And until that type of culture changes, I don't know what type of punishment is appropriate for an institution that's going through something like this and continues to have repeated problems.
And our final hot topic of the evening, what's Muhammad Ali's legacy? Soren and guys, you got about 30 seconds each.
Yeah, the greatest. I mean, that was his nickname for a very good reason. I mean, he was arguably the greatest fighter that ever lived. And I think his legacy will be different for different people. We were talking about it downstairs, and, guys like Blair and yourself and me, even I was old enough to remember him fighting Leon Spinks. You remember the boxer in the ring and how great he was. As a boxer, I think a younger generation, more like TJ, those boxing numbers are just going to be numbers in a book, and you'll see the record. And he wasn't undefeated, which is part of what his greatness was, coming back and beating the fighters that had beaten him. But his impact on society as a whole, I think, will be his lasting legacy here moving forward. He was a man of principle, stood by those principles, and stood by it intelligently. And I think that's what most people will take away from him here moving forward.
TJ?
Muhammad Ali is the patron saint of not sticking to sports. And I absolutely love that fact about Muhammad Ali. Soren's right. I don't remember him first for his boxing legacy. He was a great boxer. I remember the image. I remember the fight I saw on ESPN Classic of him against George Foreman. But I never experienced his fighting prowess. Much more so, he'll be remembered for the fact that he took strong, intelligent stances on political issues that mattered to him. He chose to represent himself in that way, and I think that a lot of athletes in today's society shy away from those things. Michael Jordan infamously said Republicans buy sneakers too, and I think that unfortunately the don't take a stance has taken over our athletes far too much. I hope that the message of Muhammad Ali this weekend is do better and stand for something if you can.
Blair?
Greatest fighter I ever saw, and think about this. He missed 4 years of his life, in the prime of his life, sitting out, not boxing. He was, because he protested the Vietnam War.
Right.
Think about this. The iconic black athletes who came before him, Jesse Owens, Joe Louis, Jackie Robinson, maybe even Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, those guys carried themselves with such dignity, and I think they felt they had to do it for African Americans. Muhammad Ali comes around, and he is totally different. And I'm not saying he didn't carry himself with dignity. He absolutely did. But he was loud. He was colorful. He was unafraid to speak his mind. He will be remembered, as TJ said, for many more things other than his boxing, and he was the greatest boxer.
He was greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. We'll be back right after this with a few final thoughts from the panel.